We're gonna go ahead and start.
You're on mute, Karen.
We'll get that over with early in the meeting. It's every meeting at some point.
No worries. I turned myself on to mute. So I was watching Tim walk in.
All right, let me just pull up my things. Good morning, everybody. I would like to call us to order this regular meeting of the Winchester School Committee at 11:05 a.m.
Yep, noted.
I'm not sure if we're gonna have,
Being recorded.
it is being recorded, so we can get minutes. All right. I will lead the meeting today since, as everyone can see, our chair is participating virtually. So welcome, Karen. And we'll also wait for Tom to join us. Our first order of business today, sorry, I have to pull up my
No, you're good.
agenda, is public comment. And Andrew, do we have the public comment policy?
We do not pulled up.
But
Public
Are we
comment,
to the agenda?
it's for a period of
20 minutes.
20 minutes.
Speakers are limited to 3
3
minutes.
Please give your name and address when you
Correct.
come to the microphone, and
It is not a dialogue
or discussion.
or a discussion. The committee just receives the comments and then considers them at a future date. And
You got it.
as recording secretary, would you be willing to maintain time for us
Yep.
today? That would
Happy
be
to do
great.
so.
Thanks so much. Do we have a list?
We do not have a list either. Okay, look, I'm still trying to replace Karen. Okay? Kind of on my list.
Free for all, just now.
I mean, we're lucky we're here, that's all.
So for those that are here for public comment, please feel free to come forward to the table. The owl is, just so everyone's aware, the owl is in the center of the table and recording us. If there's anyone here for public comment, feel free to come up to the table, give your name and address and speak for 3 minutes.
If anybody would like to raise their hand and we can call them if you don't want to go first, you can do that too. Rebecca, do you have public comment? I do have public comment. Come on up.
Come on up, join us,
I
Rebecca.
saw the public comment look on your face.
Yes, and the notebook was open.
Okay, who should I face here? Should I just face
Sorry.
the owl?
I face the owl and
Keep your head on a swivel.
Okay.
And the owl will
I'm
follow.
probably gonna face you all since you're in
Yeah.
person, and Karen and I talk loudly and we know each other well, so you'll hear me.
That's right. I can hear well.
Oh, yes, all right. So my name is Rebecca Sliz. My address is 2 Watson Place. And I'm here as the parent of a rising 9th and 7th grader in Winchester Public School System. And I'm here today because I'm aware that there's consideration of a bell-to-bell cell phone policy, if I can abbreviate it as such, or of a change to the cell phone policy. How about that? Okay. So usually when I'm going to make public comment or speak in public, I tip up my notes and I practice. But I have spent the last 10 days hosting 2 youth from the Pine Ridge Reservation in South Dakota. And last night, one of them had to speak in public, and I suggested that she make 3 points. She's a teenager, so she decided to speak from the heart. And I'm going to try to do both this morning in 3 minutes. So first, as the parent of 2 young children, still young children, 9th and 7th graders to be, they were in 1st and 3rd grade during COVID. And I have seen and experienced as a parent the effects of devices, including cell phones, on my children. Everything from their rushing through activities like meals and conversations so they could get back to their devices. They cannot tolerate boredom. They have a constant need to be stimulated, and I think boredom is the birthplace of creativity. I cannot imagine being a teacher in the school system, having multiple different classes of kids each day, spending time saying, put your phone away, put your phone away, put your phone away. It is exhausting, it is distracting, it is frustrating, it is sad. That's my first point. My second point is I know I am not alone. I am here as a parent, but I have been talking with a lot of parents, mostly moms, but not all, who share a lot of these sentiments and have been gathering facts, data, evidence, examples from around the state and around the country of school systems making changes to their cell phone policy because of the impacts on kids and teachers, frankly. And my sum from reviewing some of this data is that for the schools that have gone bell to bell phone free or have created distraction free learning environments, all the evidence is positive. Whatever you care about as a parent, whether you care about academic performance, whether you care about youth mental health, whether you care about social and emotional well-being, all the evidence shows that removing phones improves all those metrics, all those dimensions. I mean, it's a beautiful up to the right graph if you look at it. So I think that's compelling. That's my second point. My third point, which is a combination of a point and speaking from the heart. The past 10 days with these Lakota youth, we have had so much fun. We have played board games. We've gone swimming. We went to a carnival. We had such beautiful face-to-face, in-person interactions and connections that are unforgettable, which is, I think, what we as parents want for our children. We want them with our children. We want our children to have those with each other, with their peers, with students, with adults in their lives. So important. So last point is that I was thinking, I spent a lot of time with these Lakota youth, and I was telling them a little bit about Indigenous people in Massachusetts. And at some point, it got me to remembering the mascot that we used to have at Winchester High School. And how difficult the discussions were around making that change. And I, in that process, myself had a lot of one-on-one conversations over time with teachers, with administrators, with parents. And I will never forget a conversation with John Fleming, who said, but Sachem means leader. We changed the mascot. We are still leaders. And I think in this case, we cannot wait for the state. If we'd waited for the state to change the mascot, we'd still be waiting. We cannot wait. We can lead. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Rebecca. Is there anyone else who would like to raise their hand for public comment?
There's nobody saying anything. I'm happy.
Come on up to the table. We just, since you joined later, so the sort of ground rules are name and address to start, period of 3 minutes. And there's no debate or dialogue during.
Okay, I didn't plan anything. It's
Wonderful.
just
Set a timer
I'm
for
just
3
here at
minutes
the-
and it'll ding and the time is complete.
Okay.
Welcome.
Thank you. My name is Aurora DeLuca. I live on 44 Wildwood Street. I'm here with my daughter who's gonna be, she's a ninth grader, upcoming ninth grader. And she think like each kid has different profiles, but I have a son who's not prone to devices. And she was at Austin Prep last year and she said, Mom, it was ridiculous. Like it was worse than McCall, the usage of cell phones. And she said, Mom, like it's very distracting. Like the kids are like they're not paying attention. I don't know if you wanna add something.
The teachers didn't.
And that affects like not just the kids, but like that using it everybody around them. And like they said, like psychologists, therapists, everywhere, they say like the less use of devices is better. And I don't know, I agree with everything she said, like she said it beautifully. And I don't know any parent that is against removing them. And if people is not against it, they need to get informed and read, and follow their pediatricians and everything. Every time you go, they said, how much is your child using their devices? They like, are they on social media? Like they are, like, make sure it's like coming down. And we're here to be a better community. Mostly everybody I know moved to Winchester for their schools. And we, as parents, as a community, we want a better community and, less use of devices. And that's everything that came to my mind. And thank you. And also I have to add, I was a substitute teacher last year at McCall for Spanish. And it is a lot, like not just teaching, like, okay, who's using are they in their computers, like sitting behind them to check who's like, looking into websites, who's really doing the work, on top of put your phone down, it's a lot. And it would be amazing that that's removed. And thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Are there others who'd like to come forward for public comment? We still have some time. Come forward.
My name's Susie Briggs. I live at 24 Stowell Road. I had a recent senior, she's graduated this year, and I have a rising junior. Both girls. I've definitely been interested in watching the raising of awareness around this question and have supported it. I acknowledge it's a huge.
I apologize.
You know, possibly for the high school, a change in behavior for all the kids and teachers who are sort of used to the current policy. So having to, if it was enforced to like change the behavior, I absolutely would love to see it happen for all the younger children, the younger elementary school and middle school. We came from Boston, where it was a policy at the middle school, high school. I read that I think most of Boston's public schools are going to be enforcing it now. So there's definitely evidence of how schools have managed it and how students cope with that policy, but definitely very supportive of it. And I think we spoke very, very eloquently about the topic, so support a lot of her comments too.
Thank you so much for sharing.
Thanks.
Say something, and if a parent needs to get in touch with their kid, you just call the office. If it's an emergency, you call the classroom and your child comes and takes the phone call or send an email. There's no need to have a cell phone with your kid. Sorry, I just remembered that. Thank you.
Okay,
It's a good tip, though.
Are there others for public comment? Come forward. Thanks so much.
Hi, I'm Erica Walsh, 64 Wedgemere Avenue. And yeah, I'm just here to also just express my support for a bell-to-bell distraction-free policy. And while my oldest is only going into 5th grade this year, you know, even if I, as a parent, make a decision not to allow my child to have a cell phone during the day or all those things, I've even heard from the parents or actually from the students themselves, that it's distracting to them to have it be in the classroom, even if they're trying to be focused and make those hard decisions and have that self-control, which I think is a lot to put on these young people. Even just it being in the classroom, if they're not participating in it, can be a distraction to themselves. I have 2 nieces that are in the Los Angeles public school system, and last year they went bell to bell, phone-free policy. They are 8th and 9th grade. They said it was great. It was fine. You came on campus and just phones weren't used, and they were happy. They're talking. They, girls at that age, it's very hard. And I just see the positive. They told me, because I'm just asking questions, like, tell me you're there. And they, during lunches, everyone's talking. They're not all just on their phones. And they have such a vibrant community in their school. They feel so happy and supported by their school. And I just really want that for my three daughters as they go through. I want that not only in high school, but I want that really strong in the middle school too, where they feel that the teachers are thinking about their well-being and their mental health and their social, emotional well-being. And I really want that for my daughters. And like everything everyone said, I want to be a leader in this community. It seems like really great things are coming in the state. Mara Healy and Spilka have made really great promises that everything's coming. And I just hope for Winchester that we're this great community that brings this to our kids and our families here before it's even mandated by the state. So thank you all for everything, and I appreciate it. So, thank you.
Others? Seeing none, I think I will close public comment. Thank you all for sharing with us today. And feel free to stay for the remainder of our business meeting. Let's move on now to the consent agenda, which consists of a number of items today. I'll just quickly run through, and then if there's any questions or discussion, we can do that. And after that, I would accept a motion.
We do not have minutes.
We do not have minutes. All right. So we are not considering agenda item 3A today. However, we will be considering on the consent agenda the American Red Cross Scholarship Award, acceptance of 4 donations, as well as the disposal of surplus textbooks, all of which are covered in our packet for school committee members. Are there any questions? Great. In that case, I would accept a motion around the consent agenda. So moved.
So moved.
Thank you. So we are, I guess because we're hybrid, we'll do this as a roll call vote. Ms. Bolognese.
Aye.
Mr. Hopcroft. Aye. Ms. Minyarji.
Aye.
Ms. Bergstrom.
Aye.
And the chair, vice chair votes aye. The presiding officer today votes aye. We are.
And just a thank you to the American Red Cross for funding the scholarship to the 2 students and recognition of those 2 students. And then also for the generosity of the Zhang family.
Yeah, definitely to all of the donors. So we had 4 of them, National Special Districts, the Zhang family, the Cafeteria Waste Recycling Committee, and the donation for the Daktronics scoring table. We are very grateful for all of those, and also probably to Mr. Marin for his work on surplus textbooks. So it's to all. And Dr. Elanyama was the other surplus textbook person.
Not on this round.
Okay.
Just making sure.
Thank you to everybody, regardless of who they are.
Miss Kirby.
All right, we're going to move on to item 4, the report update and action items. And we will start with the consideration of initial approval of the Winchester High School Galapagos trip. Is there anyone here to present on that?
Start with you, Dr. Ellenor.
Oh, thank you. So I'm going to turn it over to Ann Ritchie, and Mr. Mahoney is here to answer questions as well. And we have a teacher lead working on this, Ben Longhorn, who's done so much work around it, but he wasn't able to be here at this time today. So Ann will be able to fill you in on I will say this is not your average trip. So it requires quite a bit more work. So just a big shout out to both Ann and Ben, and then other members of the department who have been working on this really hard to make this happen.
Welcome.
Good morning. Thank you for having me. Very excited about this opportunity. I first need to start with some thank yous to Mr. Mahoney for always inviting and encouraging teachers to look beyond their classroom walls for learning experiences, and he's always reinforcing that message with the faculty. And also specifically for his suggestion of this destination. So, and also thank you to Dr. Ellenema, who has been very helpful in guiding me in my first out of country trip preparations. So the first thing that I did was to elicit the support and help of Mr. Longhorn, who is full of energy and has traveled abroad to destinations, for nature destinations, doing research in very rough circumstances, camping on the very island where he's collecting turtle research data. Not only that, but also because he's a leader in innovative curriculum design of the last couple of years, and we have some really grand plans for curriculum connections with the Galapagos. I should probably turn there. The educational benefit goes beyond just the 20 traveling students. We envision being able to build curriculum connections with grade 9 biology for years to come, for AP Environmental Science and AP Biology as well. Our goal is to develop working relationships with the researchers who are collecting data and publishing papers on the plants and animals and organisms of the Galapagos. And we've already started to do a little bit of that, delving in. We're looking for those projects, those researchers that can appreciate our interest, and maybe we could Zoom with them, maybe meet them when we get to the research station. For example, there is a project ongoing. There's a vampire fly. It's an indigenous, as you can imagine, it's actually an invasive species. As you can imagine, there's a lot of conservation biology that is happening, research that's happening in the island environment, which are islands being very vulnerable to invasive species. And this vampire fly preys upon Darwin's finches, which of course are very famous. We consider Galapagos the ground zero for us. It's a special sacred place where Charles Darwin first started to coalesce his theory about evolution by way of natural selection, and the observations that he made from island to island on how the organisms are in this species are very similar, but and yet different in ways that are unique to their microenvironments. So we're looking to build curriculum connections that is based on using the science practices of analyzing data, formulating evidence-based arguments about stuff that's happening right now with scientists who can actually give us their insights as we do that. In the past, I'm not sure, but this is the first trip that I'm aware of where teachers are not inviting the students that are right in their classroom to join them. They're not students that we know. In years past, the department has gone to the Galapagos. It's always been offered to AP Bio students when those opportunities came up. Mr. Mahoney and I and Ben have been thinking about ways of making the experience available to more accessible. So we invited pretty much everybody to fill out an interest form that was in the building. So that would be current rising sophomores, juniors, and seniors. They filled out a form. We wanted them to understand the nature of the trip, their comfort level with hiking, snorkeling, or any special accommodations around that that we would need to know about. We also asked for a teacher recommendation so that, because we don't know the students as much as possible, be able to get to know them. We're planning before the trip to build a team, not only around the experience to come, but also we would like to invite them to help us select those research projects that we're going to focus on, those scientists that we hope to meet when we get there, or if in other ways. At this time I'll take any questions that you might have.
And can you review the date and times of the trip? Expected
Yes.
cost?
The cost per student is $5,179, not including gratuities. And we're planning it over February break coming up. So February 14th would be our departure date.
Ms. Miniarchi.
Have any vaccination information been provided to parents? Not recommendations, just information about, I think Galapagos, you require typhoid and dengue fever. Well, not a requirement, it's the guidance by the State Department. Has that information been provided to parents and staff?
So we're partnering with EF Tours, which have been really phenomenal. And they have told us that once parents enroll, once their student enrolls, they will be given all that information.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Great. Just fun fact, after this meeting, I'm running to get my typhoid fever injection for my trip to Thailand, and there's a local shortage. So plan ahead.
Okay.
Just-
Good tip. Thank you.
just By February, it'll pan out. $5,179. Are there any scholarship opportunities for eligible families?
I can
So-
answer that. Okay. Yes, if families reach out and say they need some support,
To you directly?
to me directly,
Yeah.
sometimes they go through guidance, sometimes they'll go through their teacher, but however it comes to me, it comes to me. And
Excellent.
there's opportunity for some support. We don't do full scholarships though.
And do you refer them to local organizations that would be happy to support?
Well,
or-
not always. Sometimes we have student support funds that we set aside every year for
Excellent.
opportunities like this, and we're able to support in some way. We do recommend, having a job and working towards paying the student paying their own way a little bit with the value of a dollar, but
And
That's-
follow up, and you said they were gonna do some team building. Are they gonna do any fundraising opportunities together as well?
Yeah, so we've given a lot of thought to that, and what we'd like to do as part of the team building would be to raise funds that would go into a fund that would support students on future trips. We feel that realistically, we probably can't raise enough funds to impact necessarily traveling students. There's other reasons I think that would benefit, that would make it just kind of make more sense for them to be kind of paying it forward, like contributing to a fund for future students.
for the most part, Winchester High School students excel in raising money. Sometimes I feel like we're a professional fundraising entity, so they're never for lack of ideas and creativity. And we always attempt to follow the school committee policy of there's no canning, there's no door to door. They're expected to keep it very safe as they do it. But if you want cookies or, something crocheted, come here, or t-shirts, you come here in the afternoon, there's a table set up for you. I see that our chair has a question via the Zoom.
I was just wondering if you had already filled the 20 student participants, or are you still recruiting students?
Yes, we, as I was mentioning a little bit, the process of getting to know students and connecting with interested students, we also met with anyone who we didn't know or didn't have in class, and we could talk about the specifics of the trip. And as a result, we have 23 students, juniors and seniors, who have kind of gone through that whole process and are still interested. And so for the 20 spots, we're going to invite the 23 students, and then we might have to, or not have to, but we will probably extend any unfilled seats up to 20 to the interested rising sophomores.
And speaking on behalf of the opportunity, I want to give Anne all the positive feedback I can. I've been asking almost in every initial first day of school meeting, I talk about learning beyond the classroom, the power of connecting with kids beyond the classroom, the opportunities that are around. And as a retired science teacher, I've always been kind of on and about, hey, how about Galapagos? Hey, how about Iceland? Hey, Machu Picchu, they're all right there. We can get there. Some of it has been self-serving because I've gone to none of these environments and I want to go.
Are you gonna be a chaperone?
Well, I volunteered.
Unfortunately, he didn't make it. but-
Nobody really wants the principal on an international trip, but I also have family plans for February vacation. But if it was April, I would have forced my way in.
Having just returned from an EF trip with 30 Girl Scouts to Iceland, I do want to say that their safety standards are extraordinary and very rigorous. So I appreciate that EF is the company that you're working through, just from my own personal experience. I also know that EF in trips like this will offer either, if kids do some follow-up work, a half high school credit for the trip, or 3 college credits through the Southern University of New Hampshire. And I'm wondering if we're going to also offer those opportunities and make families and kids aware of those possibilities, because I particularly think the 3 college credits through New Hampshire is such a huge boost to kids, and can help. I mean, it's a college transcript that they get through it. That's great.
Yes, 100%. And we are going to let students know about that. They do some follow-up work on a thesis. They do some work in advance too. But I wasn't necessarily going to be encouraging the half credit, because I don't know the specifics around the WHS.
I would just have credit.
Yeah.
We could get into the avenues of paying for credit in some capacity where some students wouldn't be capable and other students are. So I would be against that.
The high school.
High school, yes,
Right,
but
but-
Southern New Hampshire, sure. if you
Yeah,
can-
the college credit. I think it's asynchronous and they have 6 months to finish it. So it's a pretty good opportunity for some of those kids too.
Yes, and not all their trips are eligible for that, but this one is.
Awesome.
I think Mr. Hopcroft has a question.
Yeah, actually, not so much of a question, because my colleagues actually hit most of the questions I had written down, but I wanted to express
Reading your note.
that reading my shoulder here. Now, to say, first of all, how exciting this is. I mean, what a wonderful place, what a wonderful experience that we can offer to our students. I did have a note here about.
I'm just kidding. I didn't read.
About EF, they're a very credible organization, and normally I'm one of the people who has lots of questions about the details about the safety and the logistics and things, and by having EF, I'm not worried about that. And so that's wonderful. I'm a little bit curious about the boats, but we can discuss that offline. The other piece was, I know this is a startup year for this particular trip, and so I think everything you've talked about paying it forward on the scholarship fund, I think is great. As we go forward, I hope this becomes an institution and something that we do on a regular basis, because I think it's a very rich opportunity. But I'd love to ensure that we message it such that, would you like to participate in this experience if cost wasn't a barrier? Because I suspect there are people that might not have even entered the funnel because they knew they couldn't do it. And then the other piece, which is a little bit trickier, is there are kids who may have, maybe they're not a good swimmer, or maybe they have some anxiety issues or otherwise. And just thinking about how can, are there ways that everyone could participate? Because I think it's just such a wonderful opportunity. And I get this is a startup year, and I think what you've done is fantastic for the startup year. I love the pay it forward idea, and building a scholarship fund for that. I'd love it to go a little bit. I like the set of opportunities for students to work and have some skin in the game. I always like to say that cost isn't going to be a barrier. So being open to the idea of a full scholarship if needed, but on a case-by-case basis, and that's a detail, and maybe we can help them raise the money if needed or whatever. But all in all, it sounds like it's well planned. Oh, and I should note that, having looked at going from Galapagos, this is a great rate. I don't think I saw things that were under like $10,000 that we were looking at. So, of course, I might not travel with a mobile accommodation, kids to a bunk or whatever. But yeah, it looks like. It looks like just such a great opportunity that most places probably can't offer. So thank you for doing this.
I'll add two points. What's nice in terms of like how serendipity works is one of the salespeople for EF is a recent graduate of WHS and whose parent works at town hall. So they reached out to me. I was like, here's the window. We know somebody who could help out. And Ms. Ritchie grabbed onto it right away. And if you're concerned about swimmers, Mr. Longhorn has a side career of many years of being a professional lifeguard. So not only has he slept on beaches, he's worked at the Concord, or whatever the Concord
Pool.
Concord Pool is. He's been a professional lifeguard for many, many years.
My personal anxiety was around spending days and nights on boats because of motion sickness. But I know there's a lot of people who have a lot of other things. So I imagine.
Yeah, we'd be anxious about your motion sickness.
I am not volunteering to chaperone.
No,
Someday I will go, but
Me too.
not on the trip, but
Yeah.
on my own. But no, I think it's wonderful, and you know, the more, you know, again, I know that a lot of sort of the gating decisions happen, you know, but I can imagine there may be people who might say, yeah, my family can never do this, and so they don't even put their name on the list, which is why if we could.
Yeah.
And again, it's down the road that, you know, you got to get the thing started, you have all the right intentions and you have the right structure starting, so it's a minor tweak down the road.
We'd have to think about, I mean, we also have our trip to France, we also have our trip to Spain.
Right.
And, you know, eventually we'll have a trip to China. So we might have to think about as a district, how we would be supporting
Think
this,
about this
because
differently.
they're all, none of them are inexpensive.
Right, well, I liked what I thought I heard about helping empower students to find ways to be entrepreneurial and raise money on their own. You know, I think that's a role that wouldn't, you know, necessarily, obviously, it's a staff resource instead of a financial resource, but I hear what you're saying, or even have a, you know, I know you're good at fundraising, maybe the parent community can help.
Yeah, it's rubbed off on the
They're
students.
watching all the PTOs growing up, that's why.
Yeah,
Right.
maybe there could be a you know, a scholarship fund in.
And that is
townwide.
for students that could do that.
I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we can promote it across the town.
Sure.
But before we let Ms. Ritchie go, again, having just been on one of these tours, I just want to thank all the adults involved in this, because even though we're using EF, it's a tremendous amount of organization, and I was happy to hear you're getting the kids together beforehand, because I think that team building before you go, it takes time, and it's so important to making a successful trip down the road. So I just wanted to acknowledge all the hours that you're putting into this to make this successful too, and that have gone into it to getting it to this point, and will continue until the trip is done. So it's a lot of work to go on a big trip like this. So
I think that's lost on a lot of folks.
it's not just EF running it,
Right.
it's more people
And then
running
you're
it.
taking time away from your families, you're taking time, and the planning and prep. And then the trip has to be successful, and almost every trip I get a phone call from a chaperone from somewhere in the world with a question or an issue, and I think it's lost on a lot of people, like, hey, take our kids someplace.
Right.
And that's, you know, we're talking about people with their own lives and their own families,
Mhm.
taking time out of their life to take a huge amount of responsibility. To give kids an excellent learning opportunity, but it's sometimes asked very freely, and the planning and prep and anxiety that goes into working with 20 to 60 teenagers in another country is real. And
Getting them
our
in
French teachers, our Spanish teachers, we have to give them some credit as well, because they do it and they make it look easy, but it's not easy.
Right.
And just as a side note to that, Anne and Ben were so thorough that I'm pretty sure EF is trying to scoop them away from us to go work for them. How thorough they've been.
Like Ben's skeptical too.
Oh dear.
Maybe it'll be a side gig.
Yeah. So thank you. Before we let you go.
I'd move for initial approval of the WHS St. Galapagos trip. With the authority to the superintendent to assess world conditions and make final decision on the trip for 11.
Is there a
Second,
second?
second.
Great. So we'll take a roll call vote. All in favor, Ms. Bolanese.
Aye.
Mr. Hopcroft.
Aye.
Ms. Minyarji.
Aye.
Ms. Bergstrom.
Aye.
And the vice chair votes aye. Thank you so much. Mindful of time, I will just very quickly say thank you to you all. Thank you for bringing up the equity concerns, which were the things on my mind. And let's move along quickly to the report from the Winchester High School Cell Phone Expectations Committee. I believe that means that Mr. Mahoney is coming back to the table with his computer, and maybe joined by others, or just
Ms. Haley's here from the committee.
all right. Wonderful. Come on to the table, Ms. Haley. Great. You want to come up as well?
Oh, no, Mr. Fleming is coming on.
No, Ms. Palacios is here for my next.
Got it.
Getting a lot of the high school today, so.
Wonderful.
Thank you very much for having us. And we do have a pretty thorough presentation to go through. I want to say that I thank Dr. Hackett. He was open to the parent feedback and the parent push for some sort of updated cell phone expectations. I know it's K through 12, but he put me in charge of putting a committee together for the high school and gave me a lot of time and a lot of latitude. And here we are. It would have been nice if we finished in June, but you know, the timing is what the timing is. Speaking of the timing, we do want to recognize that after we did all our hard work, the state came out just a few days ago and said that there's a new recommendation from the Senate to discuss what schools should do about bell to bell, class to class. There's a lot of nuances to what they put forward, and we've read it. And I actually happened to be in the State House yesterday for an unrelated, although school related, but not Winchester High School, issue that my beloved was making a compelling argument about teachers that go part-time being able to buy their time back. Side note. That being said, I did.
Side note, and it sounded like a plug.
It's a bit of a plug, right. and it should be.
Free.
So I did happen to speak to a couple of reps that we know through this job in my communities and things like that, and they are also aware of this act that has been pushed through just recently, and they feel like it's going to take some time and a lot more discussion and consideration. So our intention is to recognize that this could be coming as a statewide expectation, which would be great if the whole state did exactly the same thing. I'd argue that it'd be nice if we all had the same school start times, you know, all had this, you know, the same first day of school, the same last day of school, but let them, you know, let's let the state do what they can do. So if in fact we do go bell to bell as the recommendation of this joint committee led by Senator Lewis, then that's what we'll do. But in the meantime, we did a lot of work, and we put a committee together of 13 people. We had 4 students, 5 staff members, 3 parents, and myself. As you can see on the screen, everybody had a particular role, and they were chosen. We sent out an email to all parents, all students, and all staff members, asking them to tell us why they would like to be on the committee. And we had some great compelling arguments. We tried to put together co-teachers in special education who also have years of experience in math, like Ms. Healy. We put together Mr. Fleming, who works in a very small capacity at the high school, but also is a head coach of 3 different sports. We had world language represented. We had the WEA represented. All the grades of rising students represented, and the students were amazing. I will go back to that a few times. The students led the group in a way that you would be proud and you'd want them to lead the group. Not only did they advocate, did they understand, did they work with compromise and discussion, they created a charter for us. So the committee, so all the voices were heard and respected and listened to. And they just, I think they really impressed people that had not worked with them. And I knew some of the students a little bit and some of them not at all. And they all were really remarkable they're who you want Winchester High School to be represented by. So shout out to them. We also had a math teacher. We had a parent of 2 students who was on my school improvement council. We had a parent who's the co-president of PFA, also a parent of 2 students. We have a parent representative from the parent group for the Bell to Bell movement. So we tried to create as balanced a group as possible. And 13 people is a lot of people to have on a committee, but we wanted as much representation as we could have, while at the same time having a manageable group size. So we even had one student who was on the committee, and her father wanted to be on the committee as well. We had to make the decisions of who's going to be out of that family.
Nice.
So I think it would be hard to argue that we created a pretty fair and organized committee with a lot of representation. Method of our decision making, everybody had an equal vote. Everybody had opportunities to speak, to be heard, to help lead the conversation. And again, we created a committee charter, which we were proud. I know our 2 assistant superintendents are happy with. We met 8 times from April to June, and we plan to continue to meet after this meeting. We'll have a discussion and going forward, because we want to gather feedback during the school year to see if what we voted on will work for us and if it's working. We looked at a lot of the data from a lot of the schools that have made different efforts, and we did talk about statistics and how sometimes they can be used for or against your argument. and whether those schools represent Winchester High School or the culture of Winchester High School, and whether, we see ourselves in them, or we're all schools, but we're not really as related as, some schools might seem on paper. We looked at Boston and how many schools are actually doing it versus how many schools have said they're doing it. We looked at other states as well. So I don't think we left any stone unturned. We had a few committee members who were very committed in making sure that we had as much information for and against changes as possible. We use an online process, and everybody in terms of the school, the staff, the students, and the families were provided opportunities for feedback, ideas, and input in the decision making. So we focused on basically the question that Dr. Hackett had asked: should Winchester High School adopt or recommend a new school-wide cell phone expectations policy? If yes, what type of policy? All day, also known as bell to bell, or class to class, or a modified version of both? And what method or format of restriction would be used if we went in any direction? Our current expectations have been around for a few years now, and it allows for teacher autonomy. So if teacher A allowed for cell phones, that was their choice, and we supported that, whether they had problems with the cell phones or not in their classroom. It's up to them to police, and if they needed help, we supported that help. We also had teacher B who said no cell phones in their class whatsoever. So if cell phones were an issue and they needed help with, in that capacity, the administration would be able to help them in their classroom. Something I've always valued as a leader and as the principal of Winchester High School is providing teacher autonomy as much as possible, because it's a level of respect, it's a level of professionalism, and I think few people would argue that we don't have top-notch teachers and staff members in every inch of this building. So that's always been a way that I've led, and it's a way that I'll continue to lead. But in this capacity, we've got feedback where the teachers would actually like a, I'm sorry, I'm being distracted because there's a ball being thrown. So, Mr. Fleming, can you?
Coming up to this level.
Yes, Mr. Fleming, can you let them know that those lights cost about $2,500 a piece?
And 52
We'll
cents.
take that in checker
Not
class.
the budget, not the budget.
Not in the budget.
Not in the budget.
I can get distracted by a ball flying in the air.
At least the light fixture didn't fall down.
Not, it's not good. So we asked the staff, students, and families for particular feedback that was shaped towards them. The staff was asked, should WHS have a bell-to-bell personal device policy? And as you can see on your screen, the range from strongly agree was the predominantly answered, although you can see that there's plenty of staff that did not respond that favorably to it. Then we asked the question, should WHS should have a limited or non-instructional time, like allowing students to have their phones in the hallways during wind block, lunch, etc., a personal device use policy. And then similarly, the numbers were the same. They weren't the same, obviously, but they were fairly similar. Then expectations around personal devices should be set by each individual classroom teacher. They strongly disagreed, which was interesting because that's allowing now the administration to take some autonomy from their classrooms, but that's the support that they're asking, so that's the support we want to give them. And then the rest of the data speaks for itself. Nobody's arguing that cell phones are a distraction in the classroom, and nobody's arguing that there's a negative impact at some level from cell phones being allowed to be used in the classroom. Then we also asked students, we asked them particularly more questions, and this feedback wasn't that surprising. You would make an assumption, and you'd be correct in your assumption, that students do not want to give up their cell phones, do not want to turn them in, and feel like that there is no negative impact whatsoever. One of the committee members likened that to, our students are academically strong, they're athletically fantastic, they're great in the arts, the performing arts and the fine arts, but they're also still teenagers. They also might not be able to make that frontal lobe decision about what is necessarily the healthiest thing for them. And so we want to understand that. We got their feedback. We respect it. We're not totally surprised. We were a little surprised about them not being concerned about a particular photograph or recording of them. We thought as administrators, speaking for just the team, we thought that number would be significantly higher. We were surprised by that particular data point. that is an issue. It's an issue that we're always concerned with at Winchester High School. And we were surprised that they were not as concerned as we are. So that's just the data that we got back. We did not ask the seniors for feedback. We asked for the rising 9th, 10th, and 11th graders. We've got about 1,100 students in those grades, and we got over 500 respondents, which we survey our students quite a bit at Winchester High School. One would argue maybe a little bit too much, to the point where they disengage from the surveys and they don't want to provide feedback. To have 500 plus students give feedback was a significant number. I know Dr. Alanim and I work on certain surveys throughout the year, like how can we get these kids to answer the question? And even if they're in class trying to provide, and we're giving them time, they don't always answer the question. Teenagers will make those decisions and it's okay. So that's where, this is the student survey feedback. And the family, we asked similar questions to the families to see if there is a disconnect between the students and their parents or families, and there is certainly a disconnect. The information on this slide is a little bit more balanced than almost in any other direction of the survey for the staff and students. Interestingly enough, we've got about 500 family survey results, and there's close to 2,000 families that we usually email out. So 1/4 of the families provided feedback, and we did send out reminders. We did send out updates to make sure that there was about a 2-week opportunity to respond. So not as strong as turnout as the students. The staff, it was more than half the staff that provided feedback. But if you look at some of the respondents by the families, you'd be surprised that some families are saying that there's a positive correlation to their student and their cell phone, but that is the way they chose to answer. They do, the people that gave feedback do want some sort of device policy in place. Again, roughly the same between the lunchtime versus the bell to bell expectation. So, we struggle a little bit with that data, but it's good feedback nonetheless. And does anybody have any questions on the data before I keep going?
You can go through if you want.
Why don't you just finish
Okay.
and come back?
That was my opportunity to take a break.
Validated.
For transparency's sake, we did provide all the raw survey feedback. So it was a simple cut and paste from the feedback that you already saw to their open responses as well. So if anybody wants to dig deep and see some of the parent comments, because you'll have a parent on one comment say, this is a great idea, it's a long time coming, and another parent say, absolutely not, this is non-negotiable, my child will have their phone during the school day. So,
Were those comments provided?
yep, they're in there, yes.
They're in the link.
So if you click into any of those links and scroll down, you'll see
Separate
all the comments. And they're unvarnished, unedited. So prepare yourselves.
Oh, but not for the students. The student, there were no comments.
Yeah, we didn't provide a student comment on that.
Yeah.
But the staff and families.
I was curious about this.
So when we had a discussion back and forth multiple times, everybody's had an opportunity to be heard. We took a vote, and the vote came up that the best solution at this time for Winchester High School is class to class, having the exact same expectations and the exact same rules. So class to class is thought of as fitting our culture the best. And what I mean by the culture the best, Winchester High School does operate a little bit differently than most area high schools. We do have open campus for our juniors and seniors. We do have students that our seniors also have open ends where they come in at different time during the day. So a lot of what the existing bell to bell policy for other schools would not actually fit our school and our school culture as well as it fits their school. Particularly with things like early dismissals for athletics, where students, you could have up to 200 track athletes leaving at a certain time and would have to come and disrupt their first period class to get their phone. Or also you've got 17, 18, 19-year-olds going out for lunch every day, and they go all the way to Burlington, they go to Chick-fil-A and Woburn, and they drive far, and to not have a cell phone should an accident occur is something you have to take into account for Winchester High School. Similarly to Lexington High School, but most other area high schools do not have an open campus. They also do not have the open ends like we do. So the vote is for class to class, the exact same expectations. You walk into your class, you turn the phone into a locker that each classroom will have, each learning environment will have. That money is already, I've already organized that money to so it doesn't impact the town. It's cost neutral to the town. And there is the same expectations, should you violate the cell phone policy, the cell phone expectation, the phone gets turned into the main office and a family member has to come pick it up upon the first time. We can get into all that if there's a refusal, and there will be, we'll always have teenagers push against the fence. We're used to that, but we have to also be mindful, part of our culture, we have 2 assistant principals for over 1,420 students. So, part of my job is to not be doing the discipline, although I do get my toe in from time to time. It's really not the position of the principal to do this. It's also not the position of the dean of students, Anna Paradise, because she's there for a number of other reasons, and she does do some investigation. She definitely does tardy work, but the discipline really falls on 2 assistants for 1,420 plus students, as we checked yesterday after withdrawals and increases. Budget talks.
Oh my God.
Budget, you saw it come. So
Another plug.
Because of our culture, students will have their phones in between periods and during lunch. And I'd always invite any family member to come and watch our students at lunch, because we talk about, and school committee members have been there, oh, kids are just on their phone, not talking. I can assure you, the environment is loud, raucous, and they even entertain themselves by, playing actual games of who's going to clean up the table. So it's kind of like a fun part of our culture. And there's plenty of students that are on their phones or multitasking with each other or playing games against each other or with each other. We're getting old. We don't know exactly what the games are anymore. And there's some students that do like a quiet opportunity to sit and listen to music or sit and watch a video. We have one student who I interact with all the time at lunch. He likes to sit by himself. He enjoys the peace and quiet, and he loves to watch cricket while he's doing it. And so I have a conversation.
British cricket. Yeah.
Well, yes.
You don't mean crickets. Right?
Yeah, yes. More south, British Columbia.
That's also.
Yes, he doesn't, he's not looking for protein in his diet from the crickets. So, we would have medical exemptions if needed. As a type 1 diabetic, I'm looking straight at the camera, I think, as a type 1 diabetic, I can tell you right now, you do not need your cell phone to track your sugars. Every diabetic that has a pump, that has the Dexcom, whatever number you have, you get a device, and that strictly reads your sugars, and it does report it to the nurse and your families if that's how you have it set up. So medical devices, medical needs, we'll take those under account, but we want to be as strict and as clean and consistent as possible. And we do want to get ahead of what the state may or may not get to recommend if they do it. So it goes back to what Ms. Sills had said about leading and being first. And while we're not first, we would like to lead the way a little bit and get ahead of whatever the state's going to say, at least have some habits in place ahead of time. And that, will either be something that's permanent because the state doesn't take care of it, or that'll be a nice transition for our students to kind of wean themselves off of an addiction. We all recognize that it's an addiction, and we all have to recognize that we're all addicted to our devices. We're trying to always have our young people be better than us. So I think I've covered most of it. The devices would be these 2 types of lockers. Again, for emergency purposes, these lockers need to be able to be transported. If we have a fire, which we have plenty of fire drills, but Winchester High School is also known to have a little flare up every once in a while too, either in our ductwork or in our family consumer science program. So we are exiting, we're well versed in how to exit quickly, but they need to be something that a teacher can either take from behind their desk or off their wall, or just, grab and go, so the students have access to their phones during an actual emergency. I think that would be a reasonable expectation. The large boxes would be in most classrooms. They can accommodate up to 32 cell phones, depending on the size of the box. It does, there is an issue with the pops on the back, the things kids use, whether that will fit or not. But they're universal, these are universal boxes. And then the smaller box for our small learning environments, places where kids are getting support or assistance in either special education, guidance, or what have you. They don't need the 32, they need just something smaller. So the cost would be about $10,000 based on, we walked around a couple of weeks ago and identified classrooms and hallways where you need a large box versus a small box. The gymnasium would need 2 or 3 of the large boxes to go into the locker rooms, because it'd be better if the phones were left in the locker rooms. rather than brought up to the gymnasium, which is looking great. The subfloor is almost done. And that is the cost of implementation and the expectation of, that we'd like to recommend for the school committee. So bell to bell, we'll see what the state says, but class to class is where we would like to start for the culture of Winchester High School.
So mindful of the time, thank you very much. Mindful of time, we're already at 12:04 for committee members. I also know that this is not an item on which we are anticipating taking a vote today. And so with that in mind, I guess I would like to ask whether there are committee questions specifically for our presenters today. And then maybe if it's okay with everybody that we hold discussion until our following meeting. Is that?
So technical question.
Yes.
When are we gonna vote on it and how does that impact the rewrite of the handbook?
So the handbook will include the expectations, so the vote will be on the handbook. Right.
Correct.
But
And we can vote
not
the
on
handbook
the
at
expectation.
any time because the handbook's live. Like we can update a handbook in August.
We've done it
September,
as late as
October,
August. We
November.
don't like to do that, but we have,
Right.
we do have a scheduled meeting for the 22 weeks from now.
Correct.
Okay, so let's
will
get as much
add-
information out of,
The timeline though, if we want to put
Right,
boxes on the
right.
walls, we need to respect the
Right.
custodian's time. And
Yes.
they're aware that this is coming or could be coming. In the handbook, it's already in the handbook in case it, if you're going to vote, we proactively put it in there. There is time for implementation that we would need.
So let me so typically what would happen with a handbook is we do a first reading, which is what we're doing today.
Okay.
And then we would vote it at the second meeting just by committee policy. For those that have reviewed it, so the changes that are proposed by the presenters today are memorialized as changes to the handbook. And so the idea would be, unless I'm misunderstanding, that we would approve the handbook at our next meeting in order to allow
and the committee
preparation.
on the.
Dr. Matthews, could you actually, is there a way, Dr. Hackett, for him to bring that policy, the handbook page up so we can
Maybe
see?
Mr. Marin.
Because that might help us frame our questions too.
It's, Mr.
Agenda
Marin, it's in the, if you use the packet, it's in the next agenda item, the first reading of 2025.
Right, out of this time, I do have a couple of questions
Yeah,
that
go.
only Principal Mahoney can answer, and
great.
we can deliberate if that's what you're asking, that we deliberate later on
The
the
next
next time. Sure.
Yeah.
So Principal Mahoney, if anyone else has a
Go,
question, you
no,
guys go.
you go first.
I'm really interested, I mean,
You're
You
there.
know what
I
I mean?
have some too, but go ahead.
Pause, it's page 15, Mr. Marin, just so you can get.
I don't wanna take Tom's question.
Ish.
Are you sure?
I'll be moving around.
We'll all be okay.
Principal
Go for it.
Mahoney, are you able to share the committee's?
No, well,
No, not individual people, but what percentage?
oh, I think it was 7 to 6.
So
7 to 6.
For class to class
Correct.
and 6 bell to bell.
Yes.
Is that what
know
you
the-
said accurate, or was it 7 to 6 on
7 to 6 class to class.
Class to class.
class to
Yeah.
class?
Class to
Okay.
class.
So we don't know
six-
that the other 6 are bell to bell. They just didn't vote on class to class.
It was a either or,
Yeah,
but we don't know who voted.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think there was definitely some change of opinions over the course of the presentation, or the committee meeting. There are some staunch opinions that never changed, but
and did you put the data by grade? Like, so would I be able to see which percentage of ninth grade students and ninth grade
No,
families
we did not do
supported a
that.
bell to bell policy versus 10 and 11?
we did not do that.
Because it was an anonymous survey, correct?
Correct.
Was the discussion, were there any discussions around, not on person? Meaning, that policies where the phone is not on your body, it's locked away in your personal book locker or in a separate, your car, leave it at home, just
So-
not on your physical being or in your backpack as you're going from class.
I will tell you, there was slight discussion, and as a new committee member, lockers don't work at Winchester High School. They actually work fine. Part of our culture,
Mechanically, they work fine.
they work fine. Nobody or few, and when I see a kid, they get a nice shout out for me, maybe a high five if they want it. We have 1,420 students. We have 1,100 lockers. So juniors and seniors do not get lockers. Only freshmen are assigned a locker, and then they get that same locker their sophomore year. It is an odd part of our culture that students never, ever use their locker, with the
What a
exception.
good use of the resources that
But
have been made for.
But
that
there's
have
a
been
but there's
reason
not
provided.
enough lockers.
So
There's not
then
enough lockers.
you have to buy even fewer little cell hotels.
So it's funny, we talked about the not on your person.
Okay.
I didn't make it up.
Our
It's a good one. We like it though. We're writing it down.
teachers on the committee liked using the boxes because you can take attendance that way. You can say like, where's your, like, you want the visual of being able to say, did you turn on your phone? Now, when I gave the shout out to the kids, I can't express to you enough how sharp they are and how thoughtful and open-minded they were. We had one student, rising senior, who is great with math. He loves his numbers. He's definitely gonna be an economist. He's
Is he on student council?
he will
Like,
take
I know.
linear algebra at some point. And he
Respect.
astutely said, okay, we're gonna ask for $10,000 for these lockers. Or we go bell to bell and we have to get a system either at doors or in the yonder pouches, and I'll get into that in a second.
Yeah.
That would cost over $70,000. And what that gives us is 50 minutes of less cell phone time. And it was just like the light dawned on a few people of, oh, if we don't have 5 minutes for passing for four times and our 30-minute for lunch, that's 50 minutes. So we're gonna spend this amount of money for 50 minutes or this amount of money for the direct impact of the class to class and learning. And that came from a high school junior. And it's just like an impressive, thoughtful way to approach an argument. They also, all four, I will say, our kids at Winchester High School are great. Some kids will push against the fence a little bit. Some kids will try things because they're teenagers and that's part of the job. They all know the workarounds for every idea we come up with. Even the rampant rule followers are already aware through peers and legacy of,
That's why the yonder pouches don't work.
yes. It's a $5 magnet on Amazon that
It's
they're all.
actually $3 on Amazon Prime Day.
Yeah.
That's a
I
card.
wasn't shopping for it yesterday, but I
checked it out just before this meeting. I was curious.
so they're aware how to clone their cell phones, if they have a MacBook.
Or to have a burner phone, but I'm sure your disciplinary action would.
Yeah. At some point, somebody will turn in a false phone and they'll be walking down the hallway and they'll be forgetful, they'll be on their phone, and that's the conversation that we'll have. Or say that they turned in a phone and then the teacher can hear it vibrate, or they didn't turn in their phone because they didn't have it. The luxury of working with teenagers is that oftentimes they think their ideas are original. They're rarely original in terms of how to get around rules.
I think it's fortunate that we are having this conversation here in Winchester while they're doing the same on Beacon Hill. Because thanks to your hard work and the committee's hard work, you're starting the conversation, you're putting a process in place, we're talking about the infrastructure that's needed. So when we talk about the budget cycle coming in, because what's going on in Beacon Hill is a 26-27 admission, we'll call it. There's nothing to say.
There's a lot of bullet points to the initial pass, and I was like, you're giving every possible out to not have this work in those bullets.
Right, but the governor and the attorney general, the MTA and Senate president and this elected official support a bell-to-bell distraction-free experience for our students. And I think that's going to be the spirit of the document. And like you said, we didn't wait around for the state to tell us. We used our moral compass with the sachem. I feel like we should use it here.
So
Is that a question? No,
Okay.
it was just it was part of my conversation with Mr. Mahoney. But I'm just saying, I appreciate your hard work because it is working in tandem with what's going on in Beacon Hill. So thank you again.
Mr. Hopcroft. Oh, wait, okay, we don't have a hand raised.
Yeah, well, thank you for coming and thank you for all the work that you and the committee did.
I'm here every day in the summer, Mr. Hopcroft.
I know you live here.
I just upset that I had to wear pants and a tie today.
Not directed by me.
I didn't get them out.
I feel a lot of dress.
Thank you, Mr. Mahoney. Wasn't alone here.
Yeah, so I had a few questions. And you may have mentioned this first one, but this is only apply to cell phones, or is it watches, Chromebooks?
So we went back and forth on that quite a bit. And it's starting with cell phones. Because but those are some of the outs, the headphones, the watches. We are a proudly flexible school where we allow students a lot of autonomy, a lot more freedom than most other schools, certainly schools that I've worked at. And we don't want to veer into a police state of give me your watch, give me your headphones, give me your laptop, give me your phone. It's an unreasonable expectation to prepare them for life. Watches, headphones, like they'll be on kids' person for sure.
You had mentioned the student who came up with the 50 minutes of additional coverage for another $60,000, and a very astute student maybe to join the committee here as well. I was curious if, and I know this would be hard to know for us, but maybe from your conversations with other districts, if you have any sense of how much learning time would be taken from the putting all the devices in and taking all the devices out, and what happens with late students or students who have to leave early, or just how the
That's a great question. Ms. Palacios, who's back there, and Ms. Healy can talk about like boots on the ground. It came up in our faculty advisory committee meeting, and one teacher was concerned about, well, I don't want to take 10 minutes out of the class to start taking cell phones. And speaking for the two of you, and I'm sorry, if you institute your expectation and you're consistent with it starting day one, it takes less than 2 minutes. When kids walk in, they turn it in, there's no argument, no nothing. If you try to do it halfway or midstream, this is for almost any practice in a classroom. If you change your syllabus, or you want to ratchet up rules, it becomes exceedingly more difficult to do that. So speaking for Ms. Palacios, in a meeting that happened in May, she's been doing it in the Learning Center for a while, and it went from 5 minutes to 2 minutes.
Yeah, I've been collecting them for the 8 years I've been here in my history class. I would say it takes about 30 seconds. They're all assigned a number. They walk in, they put it in, they sit down, and that's it.
So quick going in
Right,
and out,
yeah.
and then people coming later.
If they come in, same thing, they put it in their pouch, or if they're getting dismissed, they remove it.
Do you just like leave the door open? Like the whole locking it thing, I don't quite get, but to facilitate that, I was picturing like if a student comes in, you have to go over and stop teaching.
So that's
lock it, you know.
That's a good question. The teachers that do take cell phones, they usually use like a $5 shoe tree. There is concern by the WAA, and rightfully so, like what happens if one of these $800 devices goes missing? Ideally, every kid's got Find My Phone or Find My Android. They almost never do though. So it might be a Life 360 issue that they're arguing with their parents over. Again, we work with 18 and 19-year-olds. We have to always take that into perspective for the whole district. The locking, like if a teacher doesn't lock it, there's no consequence of not locking the actual box. And some teachers will, and I assume some teachers will just have them go in the box and close the door. The boxes can come off the wall. If a teacher wants it on their wall, I think that might be an avenue that we go to. If they just want to keep it behind their desk, that's fine too.
It's the idea being that because it's in each learning space, locking, it is they are supervised.
Correct. And there was a concern about what happens if somebody steals a box. Well, I can tell you, first of all, kids leave their devices, laptops, and phones in Winchester High School all over the place, and they never get touched. It's a blessing that we have such honest kids, or kids that don't feel the need to take something that's not theirs. We would absolutely see a kid taking a 3 foot by 3 foot box out of a classroom on the cameras if that occurred.
Yeah, that wasn't a concern of mine. Mine was more around just the logistics and the time, because you presumably have, I know I've had to pick up my kid early or whatever, and just the disruption that it could cause but if it's just open and they can just grab it on their way out.
And that's something that we talked about in terms of like the sports dismissals with our later school start time. We have a lot of kids that get dismissed. And so, are they going back to their first period class? If they're already down by the gym, do they have to go all the way to the other end of the school to get their phone? It's best for the culture of our school if they're right there.
Okay.
And at this time.
And I think you addressed a little bit about the enforcement. Certainly, if you hear someone's phone vibrating or otherwise, but I was just, and I guess if you're taking attendance by who's put their phones in, that gets to it. But I just imagine there may be cases where kids have a phone or a backup phone or something that they're not using, but they just don't turn in. They're coming to class late or whatever, and maybe you're like, hey, the phone's not in the box.
Yeah. So the committee pushed me to, the conversation was what happens if the teacher's not following expectations, not following the rules. And that's part of my job. That's part of the admin team's job, is to, enforce policy, enforce expectation. And if it comes to a quiet conversation or more, then that's something that we have to do. We have to have consistency across the way. And I think the phrase slow is smooth, smooth is fast. I think we'll start off with some teachers, like Ms. Palacios and, Mr. Artigues and whomever, like, that have been doing it for years. They don't blink. And we have other teachers that are going to take a minute to figure out how it works for them and whether that works for them and, what format and where they want to put it. And that's going to take a couple of minutes. And over time, those minutes will shorten and shorten. And then it'll be just like classrooms that already do it as well.
Yeah. I was wondering, are there scenarios where teachers are using the phones or anything on the phone? Part of that.
There were, but that is part of the expectation, is that we can no longer use them for learning devices. So no more Kahoot, no more world language, using them as a recording device to speak into, to hear their language. This is this is the avenue we're going down. And this gives me, as the educational leader, quite a bit of pause. But there's always ways to figure out a new way to do something. So yes, researching, doing geocaching, environmental science, we can go down a million ways we've used them effectively. We're not going to be doing those anymore.
So there's no provision for
No provision.
teachers to be able to use it for limited purposes. Okay. Okay, I'll stop there for now. Thank you.
I will.
That's fine.
Can I go to Ms. Bolanese first, since she's had her hand raised, and then we can.
Oh, I was just wondering, you had up on the screen the punishment for each of the violations. Is that consistent across other areas? Other things that you would be enforcing?
It's fairly consistent. I mean, rarely do we have a parent having to come in to get something from a student. So, but the classic detention, in-school suspension, the avenues that we'd have to go down with this expectation or policy, there's very little you can do. So step one is to make sure we have a conversation. And I think we can lean into that with the updates with the handbook as well. We never want to use discipline because we know that discipline rarely works for a lot of kids. The detention is rarely a deterrent unless they're missing something that they really want to do. And oftentimes then they miss the point of the behavior or choice got you here. They're angry at the school or angry at the teacher. We talk about lessons that are learned by using these tools, but the lessons are, the adults see are not often the lessons that the kids are absorbing. So with cell phones though, and like the updates in the handbook that we'll get to eventually, everything we want to do is spark conversation. We make sure that the parents are hear from us why it's important, what we're trying to do, and what the expectations of the school are. So we did decide, instead of saying, first infraction, you just have a detention, second infraction, your parents have to come in, or family member, we jumped right to the family member has to come and grab the cell phone, because we have to make sure that everybody understands this is zero tolerance, and it is quite inconvenient, or the family member can't get in that day, but that cell phone is going to stay at the high school until somebody picks it up. So it is not entirely consistent because it is very unique. I don't know whether to look at the owl or the screen.
Just talking.
It's a very unique situation. And because it's new, we're going with something that's slightly different than what we would traditionally do. But again, it's designed to spark first conversation.
You're still on mute, Karen.
Sorry about
There
that.
it is.
I'm juggling between screens. And then what you were saying about no longer having access with Kahoot or with doing recordings for world language. Were those that was taking place in class, or is that something that they could do outside of class, like from home? I'm talking specifically actually about world language.
I think every variation you can come up with. I know historically kids are in the hallways, doing basically transcribing what they're saying through their phones and sending it as a recording to the teacher. The teacher's been involved with that as well at the world language level, and then obviously they can do it at home as well. We'll have to figure out a new way.
Other questions? Okay, good. All right, Ms. Bergstrom.
Thank you so much for this. I appreciate all the information and work you guys have been doing on this, and that we have some educators on the community who have actually had this in place, because I think that really helps inform your next steps. I had a couple of logistics questions. My first one is this going to apply to staff as well?
It is not.
Okay. Because often we lead by example as educators, and if the adults don't have it off in a way during class time as well, I wonder what message that's going to be sending.
I think that's a fairly good question, but one you would be best to ask the union about.
Okay.
It did come up. It did come up in conversation.
Yeah.
I think the adults that are unionized would push back quite a bit.
just out of curiosity, because there were a couple times you mentioned something that made me think it might apply to staff as well.
It's
so.
funny, the leading, administrators were always trying to think about leading by example.
Yep.
And a kid called me out for jumping the red light underneath the train tracks.
Yep.
And I swear I didn't do it. I swear. And I was like, I didn't do that. It was like, oh, now I sound like we role reversed. And
Yeah.
I still think I didn't do it, but they were keen to point out my transgression.
Yeah.
Can I just comment that it's interesting that the students really don't like their phones being taken away and neither do the teachers?
Neither, yeah.
It's an addiction for all ages.
Yeah.
Like,
Right.
As we sit here with 5
Mine's
community
closed.
phones
Yeah.
sitting, no, but we're all.
I'm just nervous. I'm looking at anything.
So, capacity, one of the parents in public comment mentioned, just call the office, which sounds like an easy thing to do. Or as part of this plan, have you made accommodations for that? Because it's not only calling the office, but getting the message out to kids in the classrooms or what they need to know, or
it's
having a message board. Have you thought about how you're?
we
gonna
have
manage
discussed
that?
it. It is, we also have a unique culture where we have lots of drop-offs during the day, from lunches to Starbucks to sports equipment to books and homework. We have a community, a lot of people are able to work from home. Some people, like, you might have a single income, but both parents at home. A lot of people are available to drop things off.
Right.
So, we've talked about it. We don't know whether we have the capacity. We're certainly not in the interest of hiring somebody to do any of this, but I think we can handle phone calls and then a quick email or phone call into the teacher's classroom. That, like taking a cell phone at the start of a class, that takes 30 seconds. It
Right.
might take longer depending on what time you're calling. We often have parents coming to ask questions at 8:25 and
Right.
it's chaos, or during lunch. And Miss Hanlon is excellent at her job. She can excel in multitasking, and she's really the right person for the front desk, but she's one person.
Right.
So we are gonna have to play it by ear, and maybe maybe the calls and the drop-offs reduce over time. That is something that we talked about, teaching a little bit more self-reliance and self-sufficiency, but that's going to take quite a while, because I'd assume our culture is, led up to all these drop-offs and things like that happen at the high school that have been going on for years.
Right. Well, similar to the capacity issue with EF, I just want to make sure that we're clear with parents in the community that the level of contact with their students is going to go down when we implement this policy too, that it's not going to be that instant response or the ability to get in contact with your kids. If you call at 8, you may not be able to get in touch with them until noon or the end of the day.
Right.
Once we implement this policy, I don't want to give the impression that we can have the same capacity for parents. What I'm
Yeah.
not arguing that that's a
Yeah.
good thing that they have that much contact with their kids, but I just want to make sure that we're clear with the community that that's not the expectation we're setting when this becomes part of the handbook too.
I will happily put that in my letter that very few people will read,
Right.
this August.
Well, and I'm wondering if it is additional handbook guidance too about drop off and student communication for the parents.
Sure.
That we could add some information around that to kind of set that expectation for the adults. as
Well, once you take the vote, if you want us to add something in or take something out, that's the purview of the school committee.
And I have 2 more quick ones, I promise, but do you want to jump in? I saw your mouth.
I do
open.
after you're done.
Okay.
Just logistically, that's all.
Okay, just 2 more, I swear. My other question was similar to Mr. Hopcroft's. It was about the locked boxes, and individual keys or combinations. Did you consider having boxes that aren't locked? Because I do have emergency concerns. If there was an emergency in the building, about that key getting lost, it just seems like an added logistic that if the cell phone lockers are in a position in the classroom where the kids can't get to them during class, I'm not sure what locking them adds
That's a
for
good
us.
question. We did talk about, the $5 shoe tree, where that could go.
Right.
Whether it's safe enough if a teacher is helping kids in the hallway versus because we do spread out quite a bit in our learning environments. It's just the conversation, like, this is what the committee chose. And so the backup key will always be in the main office. And if we bulk order, it's more than likely that we'll have one key that can open up all the boxes. Whether that can happen quickly in an emergency situation, the ideal in an emergency is to grab the box and go, not to unlock the box and start handing out cell phones. So,
Right, but I can imagine a situation where that might be necessary. So, that's just, I'm just gonna throw that back to you guys to think about again of before you purchase that, of whether the locking solves the problem you're trying to solve, or whether you could solve that with an unlocked that would actually add a level of emergency protection for us. I think about the iPad docks that we have in elementary school. It's not like the kids are going in and grabbing iPads randomly during the classroom. They don't have access to that. It sits at the front of the room where you can see it. You can get in and out easily, but it's not locked.
But is the option to, should we not have the option to lock it? Like, cause we can have the option to lock it, not lock it. Yeah.
Yeah,
I think I'd rather have the option depending on how things
Right.
go for.
The keys will go missing. That's a guarantee.
that's just, yeah, so that's what I'm saying, is if it's something that we can have the option or not have the expectations that teachers have to lock it.
I could see a second grader not going up to an iPad station and, that's sacred ground to them. I could see a 17-year-old.
I guess I think of our
Reaching-
kids as being generally compliant,
I mean,
Mr. Mahoney.
They are
and
generally compliant.
going up into the classroom in front of their teacher and grabbing an iPhone out when they know it's the expectation to not do that.
That's who we want them to be.
Right. And then my last question, I swear this is my last one, is about student buy-in. So a lot of people have mentioned the SACHM and school start time, and having been a member on that committee, the only one actually here, on the committee when we put those through, those were student-led initiatives. So when I think about the SACHM, when I think about school start time, we had tremendous numbers of students come forward to us, ask us for these things to happen. There was a huge amount of buy-in and coordination among the student council and the student body to make these things happen. They saw a need for it. What I heard in your survey is that students don't see a need for this, and in fact, the other way, see a positive impact on their learning from having them. So I guess my question is for you and the staff, and you don't have to answer this today, is that's the big difference. And the reason we were able to lead in those initiatives is because the students were on board and the students really didn't know. This is 100% an adult-led initiative, and I'm not saying that we shouldn't do what's right for our kids, but my concern is student buy-in on this. Somebody mentioned our elementary schools and our middle schools. Already, you're not allowed to have a cell phone during the day at those two grade levels, and it's been that way for quite some time. This is going to be a change at the high school level. How are the educators, the staff, going to work on student buy-in? Because Ms. Bolognese asked about discipline, and discipline doesn't equal buy-in. In fact, it can have the opposite effect.
I agree.
So
The
what's
how?
your plan for that?
Can I ask you to hold on the answer to
Sure,
that question?
Okay.
All right. But that's because it's a big question.
I said it didn't have to be answered today,
Okay,
but
but he was going to
Yes.
answer it. So logistically, I have a question around, do we know the lead time on getting, if we're gonna buy the boxes, do we know the lead time on getting them and what we would need, how much time we would need to install, I guess?
If we might put it to teachers, do you want this installed in your classroom? Do you not want it installed?
Yeah.
Give a little bit of that autonomy back. Chris Conway said, just don't tell me August 25th that you need to install
Right.
these. In terms of lead time, we already ordered 2 of them. They haven't arrived yet. So we ordered a small and a large to kind of just
Test
workshop them. They have not arrived yet. I don't know the lead time, but that's a reasonable concern.
is it
Yeah.
faster than putting Puritan products in the girls' bath?
Please don't. Why would you do that?
It's,
It has-
20 of them
it
right
has to
now,
be.
they'll be here by August 8th.
Sorry,
You get 20 of the big ones, the
Well, we-
60
we-
slots, you'll be here by August 8th.
but we only ordered the 2 samples because
Yeah.
you haven't voted.
No, but I think the
Right.
point is, if bulk order.
Yeah.
For a
that
bulk
was-
order.
Right. I would
If we
wonder,
vote
yeah.
on. the
So,
20.
yeah, so thank you for the transition. If I could finish my thought. So in terms of your schedule as a school committee, I would just suggest that you do not take up the handbook changes at this meeting. That you, we have focused on this, as you know, we're already 20 minutes late for other things. And that we consider, because we do have the meeting on the 24th of July, we have the August 14th meeting, and we do have a 28th meeting on the calendar. I think it'd be okay, and I ask this as a question, would it be all right to have the handbook final vote on the 14th of August, or is that too late?
I think that's pretty late.
Okay, so, and then I think that, because we're not gonna resolve this now, and I think we don't want to give short time to the actual handbook discussion. So the timeliness of the conversation around the handbook is tied to the cell phone, whatever we're gonna do with the cell phones and getting prepared to do that. I mean, I would say that at on the July 24th meeting, that should be the main discussion and the decision points around it.
I will not be in attendance on the 24th.
Well, you've done a great job. Or you could also, obviously, this could be a Zoom scheduled meeting in between.
That's what I
We
was
could try to
wondering.
figure out too. So I just want to, and we can find out maybe what the lead time is in between now and then, but we're not gonna make a decision on this now, and then our next meeting is on the 24th, and I just wanna make sure that we're.
I can Zoom on the 24th. I'm at the summer conference for administrators.
Yeah.
Got it, okay. So mindful of the fact we are at 12:35. I did not, but I will just ask one question, which I had others, but some of them were somewhat topically covered by all of you. I'm concerned about sort of use, because we have a bring your own device policy. I'm concerned about sort of how that's operationalized in the classroom and whether you are aware of students who use their cell phones as their brought device in the classroom at any point.
Pretty aware. So it's a real concern, but they use them as a secondary or even third, tertiary. Everybody has access to come to the library to get a device if they didn't bring in their own device.
Right.
And we have some kids that use a device throughout the course of the entire year. And we have some kids that sign out and use them from time to time. Will we have enough? Yes, because most of our students have their own devices and few, but some like, greater than 10 do use their cell phones as their device because they're that adept at using them. But they'll have to transition to a different device.
But we do have the art, so there's not a timing issue with having devices in place for those who are gonna have to transition.
I don't foresee us having 400 students.
Right,
About our basic capacity right now, for laptops, Dr. Alanima.
I don't know, that's Andrew now, so.
We have plenty of laptops.
Okay. And I guess the other question is around, I'm gonna ask a second one, because the watches is actually something that concerns me. If we have a policy in place for cell phones, I'm not sure what percentage of students already have watches, but do we expect, do we know how many already have smartwatches and are those connected to the internet during class time?
They're definitely connected. We don't know how many. I'm not sure we would get an accurate answer if we asked the question.
Absolutely. And then I guess the other question is, this is more of a comment, I guess, than a question, is like, what do we anticipate happening with behavior around watches if we put the cell phone policy in place?
Well, the good news is that nobody, nobody's texting through their watch. You might be receiving a message. It may be a yes or no answer, but again, there is some classroom management that teachers will have to assume, like they always have
around watches.
And there's a little bit of we'll see how it goes.
It's a good question, because my watch is my phone.
Yeah, and I mean,
So does that count as a phone?
I'm married to someone who literally uses their watch nonstop for texting and responding and even taking calls. So
I think every loophole you can think of will be tried. And then we either have to take additional steps, or if we feel that, we just have to talk as a school to figure out if this is the next step.
It should be personal devices, because something else is gonna come up, right?
Right.
Watches and screens and glasses and.
We
whatnot.
have a student or two that has the glasses.
I'm sorry?
Their
Google
glasses are
Yeah.
getting a little bit more popular.
And the
But-
other thing I'll say, Mr. Mahoney, is I'm fairly more confident the legislation is gonna go forward on this than any other issue that we've had in the past, given that the governor, the attorney general, and the Senate already have a bill on it. So I do think it's good that we're asking these questions now and we're working through the issues and not wait for DESI guidance on it.
I agree.
because
I agree.
It could,
well, and I'm not.
It's-
That guidance is 26, 27.
And it's.
well, and DESI guidance may come the day before we start school.
Yeah,
on
So,
it.
yeah, this is I absolutely agree. I think this is the direction that the state will go in, but how long and how will it be funded?
Right.
The classes
It
that
will not.
I know. That's the issue. So we're starting down the path,
Right.
rather than waiting, and we're looking at let's explore all the loopholes, and the issue with loopholes is something new will be invented next week. Where watches, headphones, glasses. I mean, a kid is gonna have a Neuralink in the next 10 years, right? So what are we gonna?
How do you know I don't have one now? So,
Just
killing me.
It'll be very quick, and I will say this is a really good conversation, because even with the DESI guidance to put in place a policy, we still have to develop the policy within their guidelines. I
Right.
just wanted to say one thing, which was just on the first offense. You know, I do worry about students whose parents may both be working somewhere and not able to pick it up right after school, that it might sort of default to them not being able to get their phone back. And just wondered if you might consider, if you're thinking about things in the committee, having the first offense be your phone's taken away for the day and you can pick it up at the end of the day, and then escalate to parents in a second offense.
So we thought about that, and we do want to add a little bit more strength to this, because it's a sweeping change. And as always, like, sparks communication. What happens beyond that is, you know, an admin conversation with a parent or family member about what's tenable. And as long as the conversation happens, we've achieved the goal. So there is
So a parent could talk to the administration and say, I can't make it there, and you have that.
we're always willing to work and have conversations.
Thank you.
So I think from my perspective, the next step would be for us to try to figure out what is the turnaround time on the actual storage boxes. I think if the committee can stay open to the possibility of doing a Zoom online remote meeting between now and July 24th if needed. If not needed, we could bring it to the 24th, at which time we can Zoom you in like we're doing right now. And that could be the meeting where there's a fuller explanation. You do have the student handbook, you have the recommended changes, right? That there could be a fuller presentation of a presentation of the handbook changes. It also gives you time to ask questions offline in between now and then. I mean,
And are you anticipating then foregoing the next agenda item around the first reading? of the
that's
student
what I'm.
handbook?
Yes,
Okay,
yeah,
that's what I
yes,
just wanted to
yeah,
clarify.
yeah.
All right,
So
so we would be able to then ask, because I have a couple of questions
Yep.
regarding the handbook that don't have to do with the cell phone policy. I'm assuming that we can ask those at the next.
either at the
Session
next
with Mr.
meeting
Mahoney.
or Mr. Mahoney.
Or in between now
In
and-
between now and
Right.
then, even,
Okay.
so, right.
Great.
So. that's-
If you're okay, as long as Dr. Hackett's email, you know, included on the email, if that's.
Yeah,
okay,
That's,
I'm,
yeah.
you know, Clearing anything.
Or you
It's-
can email it to me and I can talk to Dennis about it.
Okay,
Yep,
we'll email
yep.
them all.
For the record, I'll say the $10,000 doesn't concern me, so.
He's already got the money.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you all very much. We appreciate you coming today in the middle of the summer, especially those who are educators and aren't necessarily working right now.
Or are, never.
Or are,
Or endlessly.
or are never stop being the child and nephew of elementary educators. I understand. Thank you. So I guess we can excuse Mr. Mahoney then, because we are not going to take up
And thank you.
4C.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So
Thank
thank
you.
you. Yeah, thanks,
Thank you.
everybody.
24.
That's why I was verifying. I just wanted to be 100% sure, since I knew that's why primarily you were here. All right, so we're gonna move along to a public presentation of our next meetings, which we may add one to this, as Dr. Hackett said. But as currently anticipated, July 24th, August 14th, and August 28th, all of which are likely to be hybrid. And then at this time, I would accept the motion to move into executive session for purpose 3 to discuss strategy with respect to collective bargaining. As the chair has declared that an open meeting may have a detrimental impact on the negotiating position of the committee.
So moved.
I got it.
All in favor, Ms. Bolognese,
Aye.
Mr. Hopcroft.
Aye.
Ms. Minyarji, Ms. Ferguson, and Vice Chair votes aye, and we are in executive
And
session.
we will be adjourning from executive session. You're not coming back.
Yes, we are not coming back into public session on hybrid. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, thank you.
Thanks, Karen.
Karen, we'll see you on
Thanks.
the next
See you on the other side
executive session.
or in the other room.
Yeah.